Hey everybody, Mark Herman, aka LA Bengals fan on most of the major platforms. I am joined here with my partner in crime, Stam Schneider, and we are going to preview the week 2 Jungle Talk for the
All
Bengals.
right, let's go. Who
Yeah, all
dey?
right. So, couple things I want to hit a couple things. First thing is something I forgot to mention, and right after we were done recording, I tweeted it out. But I want to remind everybody that Pittsburgh went into Buffalo last year and beat the Bills in Buffalo. And where was Buffalo at the end of the year? So
Right.
you read Twitter and Facebook, and you would think the sky was falling. It was
Oh
like,
yeah.
yeah, guys, it's one game. This doesn't rule us out of anything. And I want to remind everybody of the Buffalo game last year, where Pittsburgh and everybody by week 6 or 7 was going, how did the Steelers beat the Bills in Buffalo? I mean, that was everybody's initial response, 6 weeks later. So just kind of chill on that. And then the other thing I want to talk about is, and I've mentioned this before, strength of schedule. I talk about this all the time. It's such a misleading statistic. When we were going through the season and picking our wins and losses, we thought this was going to be a really tough game. This was one of the games that I had. I had an extra loss in there where I said there's going to be a week where we have a game where we think we can win and we don't win. And this was one of those kind of weeks. And now with Dak out, this has turned out to be a get right game.
Right.
So look
Right.
how this is why the strength of schedule, it only means something like when you're looking at the last 3 weeks of the year at the playoff chases, where you could talk about this year's team and say, wow, this team has a tougher road in their last 3. But when you're looking at basing it on last year's schedule, it's the most misleading statistic because this game completely changed on Sunday night.
Yeah, it's a complete misnomer because I mean any one injury can just, sink a ship for a while. And it remains to be seen how how Dallas is gonna, bounce back and how they're gonna play against us. Obviously we'll get into that. But Cooper Rush is not Dak Prescott. You know what I
No,
mean?
no.
So I mean, you're absolutely right. It's
So,
one of those things where one injury completely changes the strength of
oh yeah.
schedule.
Well, and think about it. They were added. This is one of our fill-in games. So remember, we're playing the AFC East. We're playing the NFC South, right?
Right.
Tampa Bay and all that. Then we have our divisional games, and there's 3 extra weeks. Used to be 2, now it's 3. Well, our 3 fill-in games were Kansas City, Tennessee, and Dallas. We get 3 playoff teams where we're not playing that division, and they fill it in. Now this became a much different game. This wasn't even, and this is the strength of schedule. This isn't the same Dallas team. Dallas had the highest scoring offense in the NFL last year. They lost Amari Cooper. They lost an offensive lineman, in the preseason. This is and their receiving core isn't as deep. You saw that against Tampa Bay. So this was not the same offense that you're basing the strength of schedule on from last year. So,
Right. And
yeah,
and this is well, and this is one of those games. Dallas finished first in the NFC East last year, right?
right.
So this is one of those where we finished first, so we're playing other AFC teams that were first, which so the Chiefs make sense.
Right.
But yeah, Dallas is that's a complete just that's our toss-in game.
Yeah,
You
well,
know
they're
what I
going to
mean?
fill in. They filled in 3 because we're not playing the AFC South, so Tennessee is the fill in. We're not playing the AFC West, so Kansas City's the fill in, and then Dallas was another playoff team.
Right, but
They
those were
fill in
both
there.
first place teams, and we would do that anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So, but so like I said, this game completely changed Sunday night. It's now a get right game for us. This is actually a must win game. We cannot afford to go into Dallas and not leave there with the W this
No.
week. So T Higgins, apparently he was limited in practice. So because he is practicing, he cleared concussion protocol. He didn't practice today, but I think it said it was due to personal reasons.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's
So
that's
so it's going to be great to have Higgins back. Obviously, we all saw no Clark Harris, so I'm hoping that they worked out their issues in terms of the punting. I don't really have anything else in terms of news. You know, we
Well, I mean, obviously, when you talk about Clark Harris, you have to talk about the fact that um, we we signed as a college free agent out of Pittsburgh, Cal Adamitis, who is a Pittsburgh native, played 5 years at Pittsburgh. He was the long snapper for every game while he was there, 64 games. Um, he was a first conference first team All American in 2021, and by all accounts, he's really good, very calm, cool, collected. There was a reason we had that little mini camp battle.
right.
Clark Harris is 38 years old. He's not getting any younger.
Right.
So it's quite possible that if Cal kind of takes this opportunity and seizes it, that he could be the long snapper of the future as well.
Yeah, yeah. This was one of the two battles, the punting battle, which I thought we were going to keep Drew and let Huber go, and we didn't. And this was the other battle where we brought in a young guy to challenge one of our older players. Um,
Right.
and he had a shot at getting there. So, like I said, you're absolutely right. This is his shot.
Right.
He may be the new long snapper. If he does
Yeah,
well, I
because
can't see any reason to switch. So,
yeah, and right now, by all accounts, there's no, they're saying we're not really quite sure how long Clark Harris is going to be out. And if you've been around the Cincinnati Bengals for any length of time, that means they're going to string you along for about 8 weeks, and then in week 9 they're going to go, "Oh yeah, he's done,"
right, right. Yeah.
and not bring him back.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it may be time. This may be the sign. Um, so let's get into the things. We're going to do the same thing we've done the last 2 seasons. We're going to talk about the things that we're not feeling good about, and we're going to talk about the things that we're feeling good about. And we always start with the negative, so we get that out of the way. And I'll start, Micah Parsons. I
Yeah,
hate
that's
TJ Watt. I mean, I commented on it, last week, it's I said, and then we could remember the guy's name, but I remembered the
yeah, I
linebacker, and it was like,
know.
oh, I remember his name now. But yeah, I mean, I'm concerned. You saw what he did at Tampa. Um,
Yeah,
Fournette had that
yeah.
wicked block on him, but
two
but
two two sacks, two sacks, couple tackles. He's a you know not just when he's back there actually sacking the quarterback, but he's, like you said, he's their TJ Watt type of guy who, even if he doesn't get his hand on the quarterback, he's disrupting the game plan. He's
yes,
disrupting the line. He's making everything more difficult for everybody around. And Dallas just overall has a pretty solid defense. You've got some of the older guys like DeMarcus Lawrence. They've still got Leighton Vander Esch and a couple other dudes. Never mind Trayvon Diggs in the
I was going to say
secondary.
Diggs back there as
Yeah, I think if I'm not mistaken, and you guys can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, I am pretty sure that Diggs' 11 interceptions last year was the most in like 30 years,
yeah
maybe even longer, by a single player. So yeah, he's a hawk, man.
right.
He's a hawk. So I guess my overall, what am I not feeling good about is they still have a good defense. You know what I mean? We can't just roll in there and think that we're just gonna, cook our way up and down the field the whole time. But but yeah, so that's gives me a little bit of pause.
Yeah, that was, and everything I had was defensive related. I had Micah Parsons, I had Diggs, I have Cowboy D line, and then
Right.
the last things I had were our special teams because we've got to correct the snapping issues.
Sure.
And I think we will because we have the week to do it, and we can actually bring in Cal off the practice squad, get him on the team, and he can be the starter. We're not fudging in a long snapper. They don't carry two long snappers on the roster. So
Right.
we had somebody else playing it that was a special teams player, but he was not a long snapper.
Yeah,
So,
it was Wilcox, backup
right,
tight end, right.
right. So, and then this is a must win. Like I said, losing week one, I had us winning week one, and then I had this as one of the games that maybe we would win, maybe we would lose. When I gave my 12-5 prediction, but this was one of those kind of games. But this is with losing week one, we cannot go into Dallas and lose to Cooper Rush. That just can't happen.
Right. I think one of my other ones is I personally I don't think T. Higgins is going to suit up. I just find it hard to believe that he practiced limited on Wednesday, missed Thursday, will probably be semi-limited tomorrow
Right.
in practice, and I have a really hard time thinking they're going to start him in that situation. So if you've got Diggs blanketing Jamar Chase, I'm not sure how good I feel about Mike Williams and or
Mike Thomas.
Mike Thomas,
Yes.
excuse me.
Yeah.
Mike Thomas and some of the other guys to really be able to get the right kind of separation to make a difference for Joe, where Joe's not having to try to force the ball to Jamar on every down, because that's going to result in an interception at some point.
What about what about having, we didn't see Chris Evans at all in the last
No,
week's game. So we can bring Chris Evans in as, line him up on the line. We can do certain things. I mean, he's certainly capable. The other thing we could do is we can bring in Drew Stample, play the two tight end set, and have Hayden Hurst in there purely for as receiving, and have
right.
Stample do the blocking. So there's some things we can do to make that happen.
I
And
agree.
yeah, so
It's just going to take some game planning, you know
yeah,
what I mean? And I think more importantly, it's going to take game planning during the game.
right,
We're going to have to be able to adjust to, what they're throwing at us. And of course, the offensive line is really going to need to step up this week.
right.
And Parsons scares the bejesus out of me. But overall, they've got a really good defensive line, but overall, it doesn't scare me as much as Pittsburgh's does.
Right.
So, I guess just be aware of where Parsons is the whole time, and kind of go from there. You know what I mean? You just make sure he's not busting through the line on every down.
Well, and get rid of the ball. Let's scheme plays where Burrow's
Yeah.
not holding the ball.
Yep.
So that's the thing. I mean, we'll get in. Let's just go right into the things we're feeling good about. And one of
Okay.
the things I'm feeling good about is Pollock and Collins are going up against their old team. I think they've got, you know, like I said, there's a little added incentive. Collins
Sure.
is used to blocking against Parsons because he was on the squad last year in
Right.
practice. So, I'm expecting. I know Collins didn't play a great game. Our offensive line did not gel until the second quarter, and still wasn't a stellar line at any point in the game last week. I
Right.
expect to see a better game out of them this week. So
Yeah, I do too. And I think one of my good ones is it's actually connected to my bad one, which is, they've got a good defense. So we can't expect to just be waltzing up and down the field. But if we can stop the run, then we can stop the offense and keep running their defense back out there until we gas some of them. You
yeah,
know what I mean? A guy like Parsons doesn't really get gassed, but some of the other guys will. So I'm kind of hoping, if we can get a bunch of 3 and outs, get their defense right back on the field right after they just sat down and rode the pine for 10 seconds,
right.
then that works to our tremendous advantage.
Yeah, and let's be patient. Let's take the underneaths. Let's get rid of the ball quickly. Let's
Right.
keep their defense out on the field. That's all part of the game plan.
Yeah.
The other thing is if you look at their offensive line, obviously they lost a starter, Tyron Smith, just to start the year. But you look at it, so the left tackle is basically a developmental rookie. He's 21 years old. He was an injury replacement. You have no career starts by their left guard. You've got their center, who's a second-year starter, fourth-round pick. And he had 2 penalties against Tampa Bay. You've got their right guard is their stud, their 7-time Pro Bowler. And then their
Right.
right tackle is a third-year starter, but he had 4 penalties against Tampa Bay. I mean, this is not this formidable offensive line. With that said, we didn't get as much pressure as we should have gotten on Trubisky. So we've got to
No,
see both of our lines have to do a lot better job than they did last week. Hendrickson, Hubbard, you've got to get home on Cooper Rush. We have to make Cooper Rush beat us because he won't. Okay.
right.
Dak had problems getting that. They have basically one receiver who still has it established that he's a number one receiver. I'm not saying that Lamb is not a great wide receiver, but he had, Cooper with him last year, and he doesn't have now it's all on him. So he's
Right.
getting the number one corner. He hasn't shown that he's the number one guy. And outside of him, we didn't see a whole lot. Gallup
Yeah,
did.
and even Michael Gallup is still doubtful right now. And anytime they put the D on you, that usually means you're not going to play.
Yeah.
So so it's Lamb and uh, um, um, uh, was it Schultz, the tight end?
Yeah, Dalton Schultz.
Yeah. He had 7 catches last week. We're gonna have to keep a close eye on him, especially with a guy like Cooper Rush in the backfield, because that's going to be his security blanket.
Right.
So
And we
um,
have to watch Pollard coming out of the backfield. So because
Pollard and
they're going
Elliott,
to try to run the ball.
yes, they are.
They're going to try to help Cooper Rush as much as possible. So there's going to be a lot of screen passes, a lot of passes to backs and to Dalton Schultz. They're going to keep everything and have him get away, keep everything and have him get rid of the ball quickly. We need to be prepared for that.
Right.
All right. Well, that's everything I have in terms of what I'm feeling good about. Just that this is, like I said, this game got a lot easier, but it also put a lot more pressure on us because now
Yeah.
we really cannot afford to not come away with the win this week.
Yeah, what we especially can't do is think that, like I said, that we're just going to waltz out there and win this game
No.
just because Cooper Rush is in the backfield.
Yeah.
We cannot assume that. We need to have the killer instinct. We need to go out like the Bengals of last year and put the pedal to the metal and say, "Hey, world, we're still here." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We had that unfortunate situation last week, but we're still here. I mean, not that I think anybody's really writing us off, but I want us to go out and make a big statement.
Yeah, and we can do that. We are the number one game in the afternoon slot. We're being televised here locally again in Los Angeles. That's our afternoon game because the
Yeah,
Chargers are playing right now. So Rams are in the morning, Chargers are playing now. Our number one afternoon game. So this is the number one game. Uh,
yeah.
for CBS in the morning or in the afternoon. So we have a chance to show the country that we're not. So there's a lot of this is an opportunity for us to kind of show what we can do and showcase that we are for real.
I'll put
So
in a call too and make sure that they know that we want to blow the horn and the
yeah,
quacker.
I'll email them that the duck collar and the horn need to be used, guys. That we were supposed to do it last week, and you let us down on my birthday. So, I guess I still think that email's in their spam folder or something.
Right.
But all right, you want to do game predictions? Which
Sure, yeah. I think at the end of the day, I think our defense really, really steps up in this game. As long as we can, we're not going to stop Elliott and Pollard. But if we can slow Zeke and Pollard down, then that's going to mean really, really good things for us. I like getting a little killer instinct on offense. I'm going to take Cincinnati 30-13.
Wow, that is so close to my final score. Okay. I'm thinking that we're actually going to play a first half this year. We're not going to try to just win the second half. I mean, this has been a second half team since
Right.
for our whole playoff run. But I'm actually thinking we're going to play a good first half. I actually think that early in the fourth quarter, you're going to see Brandon Allen in the game because
Wow.
I think it's going to be 31-13. And I had that's why I said how close it was. And I have the 13. I think late in the or by the middle of the fourth quarter, it's 31-6, and I
Right.
think that they, or 31-7, I think they get a junk touchdown, and that's how they get the 13. But at that
Right.
point, the game's pretty much over. I really look for the defense to step up because they did not produce a turnover last week, and I
Right.
expect some short fields, produced by our defense this week. So I'm really, really looking forward to seeing that. Both of our lines have got to play better than they did. This
Yeah.
is they could say, okay, you know what? Last week was our tune up. This is us, and make that statement on national television.
I meant to give some props on when we recorded after the game on Sunday. I meant to give some props to our secondary because our secondary played well,
Yes.
and I want to see them do that again. I mean, I don't remember hearing either safety's name. I heard Eli Apple in coverage once or twice, not blowing anything, just
Right.
them saying his name.
Right.
And anytime they're not mentioning your guys in the secondary, that's a good thing.
Yeah. Jesse Bates had one full tackle and one assist. He had a
Right.
point and a half for me. I started him, but you don't want to have 10 tackles out of your safety.
No.
You want your linebackers and defensive linemen to be making those plays, because that means they're getting through the first layer. So
You are correct,
good
sir.
that he didn't have a lot of stuff. The defense, I think we gave props to the whole defense. I don't think we called out the secondary. So
Yeah.
so kudos there. But yeah, I don't I really think this is a game we're going to step up and we're going to perform. And like I said, usually there's a couple of Cowboy fans that I know that would have already been talking crap to me. It's been silent all week.
Of
And
course.
it's because I think, like most Cowboy fans, they saw Dak and they kind of just went, oh.
Right.
And that's that's understandable for a team that loses their starting quarterback in the first game.
Right.
And you're going to a Cooper Rush. I think they know that all of a sudden it's going to be a stretch for them to get a wild card.
Right.
I mean, you look at the Eagles and stuff, and I just, it's going to be tough on Dallas. It really is.
It really is.
5 or 6 games and expect it. I know Jerry Jones is trying to keep the brave face. Hey, we're not even going to put him on IR just in case he's ready earlier and all.
We're hoping he's going to be back in 4 games. I'm like, okay.
Thumb on his throwing hand. Oh man,
right.
Think about what that did to Dalton. Right, we never even got him back.
Yeah.
AJ McCarron played that playoff game, not Dalton.
Yep.
And that was all because of the thumb injury. So you don't make it back that fast. The thumb's such a critical, it's one thing to have one of your other digits, hurt and taped and numbed, but the thumb, the anchor of your hand, I mean, there's only one thing on the other side of the ball, and this is it.
Right.
Injuries back here.
Right. And then next thing you know, you're floating ducks up there.
Oh yeah. Which is, so they bring him back. So we'll see. But I understand Jerry Jones trying to still keep the upbeat, kind of idea. But
well, you got to, what I mean? That's kind of your job, especially when you're as such an involved owner too.
Well, it's not just that. What you don't want is people not coming out to the games.
Right.
Because there's food concession, parking concession. I mean, it's a huge amount of money. You still want people showing up. You don't want people going, oh, okay, I just won't go to the next 5 games. Or, I'll take the next, 2 or 3 home games off.
You got to pay that air conditioning bill at the dome when it's going to be 96 degrees outside in Dallas on Sunday.
So, all right. Well, you got anything to plug? Anything you want to?
No, sir.
All right. Well, guys, hopefully we've got the horn and the quacker. They're ready to go. It's an afternoon game, so we'll do our wrap-up show right after the game, and we'll try, get it up before before the nighttime game. But with that, I'm going to say, hoot, everybody.
Hoot, hey.
All right, let's get the win on Sunday. Take care.